What I found out killed my love. I'm not stupid except when it comes to women. I know. I know. In fact, aren't most men dumb when it comes to women? I know some of us think they know about them, that they understand them, but are they really? My guess is no. Like most men, I'm just trying to figure it out and do it as right as I can. Having said that, I guess that's the reason it took me so long to realize that I'm really dumb when it comes to women and my wife in particular. I saw signs of her disrespect and cheating for almost 5 months before I decided that if there was smoke, there might just be a fire I needed to put out. As the old song goes, we were married in a fever hotter than a pepper sprout. I found Catherine, courted her, and married her within 1 year of college. I was attending Oklahoma State University in Stillwater as a party management major when she randomly came into my life. Okay. My real specialty was hotel and restaurant management. Partying was what I was doing when I should have been studying. I also worked as a bouncer at Eskimo Joe's, well known and popular in college. The bouncers would take turns at different posts in the building to do their jobs. We served visitors at the door, checking IDs, and wading through the crowd to make sure nothing objectionable happened. The bar had an upper floor, and one of us was always on duty at the top of the stairs to make sure drunks didn't fall down the stairs. While I was working there, I quickly gained an understanding of the female members of the bar. I learned which ones would fit and which ones wouldn't, and which ones would sometimes fit, and how to identify each one. When I took up my post at the top of the stairs, I had a view of most of the lower floor. I watched from my post on the balcony as the women worked the dumb men on the first floor. Some of the women had 2 or 3 poor dumbass men buying them drinks at the same time in hopes of driving them home or to their cars for some privacy later in the evening. Many young ladies begged for drinks from the dumb men just before closing time. There was usually a mass exodus of these women after last call or a little before. They would pretend to go to the restroom before leaving with the young man who had treated them during the evening to let them pop out the back door that led from the hallway to the restrooms. This, of course, pissed the men off, and many times one of the bouncers had to give them advice to calm them down. I knew which young women played this game regularly, and as a public servant I would warn my friends and sometimes just a guy I thought was cute and didn't deserve to have nasty things said about him. Others I just let get carried away. Anyway, one Saturday night after a home game, I was working and watching drunks make fools of themselves when this absolute goddess fell into my arms. Drunk was putting it mildly for her. She was completely out of it and claimed she didn't even know where she was. She couldn't find the girlfriends she supposedly came with, but I figured it out. I'd never seen her with these women before, and they were one of the worst groups to sneak out the back door after drinking for free all night. I was pretty sure they were gone. It was after last call, and they usually ran out when last call was announced. About this time, as Catherine was literally hanging in my arms, the man she was begging for drinks from came over. He looked at me fiercely and grabbed her arm. "Come on, Kelly," he said. "We need to get out of here. I was beginning to think you disappeared because of me." Well, now I think I know her name. I was about to let her go with the young man when she came to her senses and looked at him questioningly. "My name isn't Kelly, it's Catherine. Who are you? Why do I have to go with you? Where are Cindy and the other girls? I was supposed to go with them when the bar closed." The man just pulled her by the arm and said, "Kelly, Catherine, whatever. I've been buying you drinks all night long and now you're coming home with me." Catherine came to her senses again and tried to stand up and pull away from the man. She looked scared and said, "No, I don't know you and I don't want to go with you. Now leave me alone." The man tried to pull her away again, but she resisted. I figured she really didn't know him and didn't want to leave, so I pulled her over to a chair and tried to get between them. "Hey, kid," I said. "Looks like the lady doesn't want to go with you. Now why don't you just leave like she asked before we get in trouble?" A mask of hatred appeared on his face, and he shoved me. "Back off, asshole. This fool is with me, and we're leaving. Now leave it alone if you know what's best for you." I pulled back a little, then grabbed his arm and with a swift movement, pinned it behind his back. He cried out in pain as one of my fellow bouncers approached. "You got a problem, Dave?" "Nah." This guy wanted to take the lady with him, but she didn't want to go. He didn't want to take no for an answer, but I think he understands now, don't you? Having said that, I pulled the jerk's arm up a little more and he howled in pain again and lifted himself up on his tiptoes. "Oh yeah, I get it. Just let me go, asshole." I walked the man to the door and out to the edge of the sidewalk. I gave him a little nudge and said, "All right, get out of here, buddy. We have your picture now, so I don't want any more trouble from you or we'll have to call security next time." I walked back into the building and saw a couple of waitresses crowded around Catherine. She passed out right in her chair. Damn, that's what I was thinking. Patty looked at me and said, "Dave, Catherine lives in my dorm. If you help me get her back to the dorm and put her in her room, I can take care of her from there." Well, that's what I did, and that's how I became one of Catherine's favorite people. The following weekend, I was working on a Friday night when a beautiful woman jumped up to me, wrapped her arms around me and pulled me against her before imprinting a very careless and long kiss on my lips. I pushed her away and said, "Wow, what's this all about? You saved me last Saturday. Patty told me you stopped that asshole from driving me home, then you drove us back to the dorm and helped her get me into my room. I don't know what would have happened to me if you hadn't saved me. I didn't even know that he and my dork friends had done the old trick of drinking and running out the back door at last call without me. I was supposed to go with them, but they wouldn't wait for me and just left. I didn't even hear them call for the last time, so I missed it. Well, for the next 2 years when I was working, Catherine was always there to protect me. We got to know each other very well and started dating a few months after I rescued her. When we graduated, we got married. Catherine is just a little demanding. She loves parties and dancing, likes to eat good food and drink good wine. It's all good. We have a great job and no kids, so we can afford it. We just can't afford as much as she wants right now, and it pisses her off when I tell her we can't go out before payday. Some of our arguments about money revolve around the fact that my parents are pretty wealthy. They own a large farming operation and almost 4 parcels of farmland in our hometown. We also have a large year-round resort for fishing and hunting. When I tell Catherine that we can't afford something, she almost always yells that if I wasn't such an idiot, I would have gotten it from my parents. She thinks I should come home and take a management position with my dad so we can make big money and be a big duck in a little puddle. I have told her repeatedly that I am here at this job to get some real-world experience and learn how the big boys do it before I go back to our company. The resort manager plans to retire in another 3 years, at which time I will take his place. That's not fast enough for Catherine. I started getting snide comments about my ability to earn enough to pay our bills. Sometimes Catherine would go out after work with her girlfriends and come home broke. Many times over the past few months, I had to pick her up or pay for a cab. About 5 months ago, all that stopped. Oh, she still came home agitated, and many times I had to go with her to the office the next day to pick up her car. Sometimes I had to take her to her favorite bar to pick her up, but I never had to pay off the cab driver or pick her up. Once or twice, I found her asleep on the living room floor when I came downstairs the next morning. I wondered how she got into the house if she passed out on the floor outside the door. Finally, after some arguing, I decided to find out what was really going on. I did what many men do in a similar situation. I bought voice recorders and put them in Catherine's purse, in her car, and even one in her office hidden under her desk. I tapped our landline and bought the necessary equipment to copy her cell phone calls. What I found out killed my love for her. She was having an affair with one of the men she worked with. Many late nights and Saturday shopping trips with the girls over the past 5 months had been her liaisons with good old Gregory Anders. He was one of those obnoxious salesmen you hate. Greg was arrogant. He had an ingratiating smile, and he sucked up to his betters. His only saving grace, or maybe not, was that not only was he the highest-paid salesman in her company, but his father owned the damn place. I had enough notes to realize 2 things. When I cut back on our visits to expensive restaurants, cut back on entertaining, buying fine wines, going to expensive plays, and so on, Catherine complained long and loudly at work about how badly I was treating her. Gregory noticed that Catherine was unhappy and began following the women on their night outings. He spent money, bought them drinks, and generally showed them the good life until he got Catherine interested. After that, he managed to talk her into meeting him for lunch at an expensive bistro. After she was hooked by his extravagance, he invited her to dine after work at fancy establishments. After a few weeks, Catherine succumbed to his seduction and began spending time in bed with Gregory. He started giving her orders, and to my shock, she followed them. All he had to do was threaten to stop his generosity, and she complied with his demands. I even had tapes of him telling her to cut back on the amount of loving we were doing because he didn't want my sloppy seconds. He told her she had to make sure it was more than 24 hours from the time she slept with me to the time she slept with him, or he would dump her. He said, "I refuse to make love to my woman after she has been with someone worse. I don't care how you do it, but you have to make sure you are clean before you come to me." Our sex life quickly went downhill and revolved around good old Gregory's trips out of town on sales and Sundays. He was never with her on Sundays, so that quickly became my only guaranteed day of lovemaking. I have to admit that I really didn't care after I found out what was going on. I kept that cheating fool around for as long as I could only because I was preparing for divorce. Luckily, we had only been married for about 27 months and didn't have kids yet when I found out about good old Greg and Kate. She hates being called Kate, so that's how I think of her now. We rented a pretty nice apartment and bought 2 new cars. She had to have a BMW, of course. I was very happy with my 2010 F-150 Super Crew 4X4, which I bought new when we graduated from college. When we went somewhere, she refused to go in that darn old truck and insisted we go in her car. Of course, we rarely go anywhere together now. I just do enough with her to keep her in the dark. Today begins my revenge on Kate and Greg. She has a date with him for tonight. She plans to meet him at the mall at 6:30 p.m. They are going out for drinks and then dinner at a new French restaurant. Afterward, they are going dancing. She tells me she is going with the girls to a baby shower. Kate got out of the shower at 5:30 and started getting dressed. She was ready to leave at 6. That would be just enough time for her to get to the mall and meet Greg. I waited in the hallway by our bedroom door until she came out. I burst into the room and enclosed her in a hug. I kissed her and started rubbing her. "Damn it, Dave, stop it. You know I have to meet the girls at 6:30 p.m. I don't have time for that. And besides, you'll ruin my makeup." "I'm sorry, sweetie, I just need you so badly. How about we make love real quick now and then, a good one when you get home?" "No, I don't have time. Dave." I pushed her back until her feet rested on the edge of the bed. I already knew she was wearing thigh-length stockings and bikini panties. When her feet touched the bed, she fell on her back and I thrust over her. When it was over, I kissed her and pulled away. She was screaming about how I had ruined her makeup and that now I had soiled her. She headed to the bathroom to clean herself up, but I grabbed her and dragged her to the door and down the hall. As we passed the table where she kept her purse, I picked it up and held it out to her. "I'm sorry it took so long, sweetheart," I said. "I really needed it, though, thank you. Here's your purse. If you hurry, you can still make it and not be late. Say hi to the girls for me. You can blame me for making you late. Tell them I apologize. But I need to get cleaned up. I can't go into town looking like this." "No, you're fine, sweetheart. Hell, it wouldn't be the first time you've run around town like this all night. We used to do it all the time, remember? No one would ever know. Now go out and have fun, baby." Catherine looked at me angrily and turned to her car. It was all I could do not to laugh. I sat there waiting for the tape to see what asshole was thinking about getting her after me that night. Oh, guys, he was pissed at Kate. I heard them kissing when they entered his apartment. There were a lot of rustling noises. Then I heard Kate say, "Greg, honey, I'm sorry, but Dave made me make love to him before I left. Let me go and clean up before we go to bed." "What? I told you to keep that little asshole away from you when I'm going to be with you." I heard a spanking, and Kate screamed, "Now get your ass to the bathroom and clean yourself up." I couldn't hear anything else, because Kate had obviously left her purse in the living room and they were making love in the bedroom. But inside, I was happy. I'd pissed off old Greggy and, from the sound of it, probably slapped Kate. I didn't see a bruise, so I assumed he had just slapped her. The next 2 times I knew Kate was going to be with Greg, I made her sleep with me. In fact, every time she left the house, I tried to leave a charge in her in case she was actually going to meet Greg instead of doing the innocent thing I was told she was going to do. Greg was getting angrier and angrier because Kate kept coming to him after me. He called her a cheater and other horrible names. Almost every time she cried before he roughly used her. It was so awesome. The last time she was with Greg was bad, though. I'd had enough and decided my revenge was over. I arranged everything to hand her the divorce papers during her Saturday night date. I even supplied Greg's wife with copies of the records and photos I had. No, I didn't have pictures of them doing dirty deeds, just of them having dinner, dancing, and kissing in his car. That was enough. I paid extra to have Kate serviced after she and Greg got to his apartment in the city. It was actually an apartment rented by his father's company for corporate visitors. Greg and his father both used it for their liaisons with women they weren't married to. Oh yeah, I was also kind enough to send Greg's mother pictures of his father and his secretary making love too. Heck, why not be a nice guy? The maintenance man met Greg and Kate in the lobby of the condominium. After he served her, he handed Greg the letter I had prepared for him. The process server said to Greg, "I have been instructed to give you this letter, Mr. Anders. Mr. Stevens has outlined his actions to you so that you know what has been going on over the past few months and what you can expect the next time you come home." In the letter, I explained the documents I had against him and Kate and that I had provided them to his mother and his wife. I also asked him if he liked getting my leftovers from Kate. I told him that I made sure that every time she came to see him, I sent him a piece of me to play with. I'm afraid Greg got so angry that he hit Kate. He managed to hit her twice before the guard grabbed him and dragged him away. I heard that, and I heard the guard call the police and an ambulance for Kate. I felt sick to my stomach. Yes, I wanted to hurt Kate, but I didn't want her to get hurt physically. I just didn't know that Greg would actually try to beat her up. About an hour later, I got a call from the hospital. They wanted me to come over, do some paperwork, and bring Kate home. I laughed and said, "I'm sorry, ma'am. I can't do that. Kate and I are getting a divorce and she doesn't live with me. Why don't you call her lover and ask him to pick her up?" "Oh, well, I guess I can do that. What's his name?" I gave her Greg's name and phone number. She was quiet for a moment, then said, Sir, I'm sorry, but I can't call Mr. Anders. Your wife is in the emergency room because Mr. Anders beat her badly this evening. I believe he's in jail right now, sir." "Okay, here are 2 more phone numbers. Maybe one of them can help." I gave the phone numbers of Kate's parents and one of her 2 best friends. I don't know who picked her up. I haven't heard from her in almost 4 days. Wednesday night I left work and found Kate waiting for me at my truck. When she saw me, she slowly got out of her truck and walked over to me. Kate had tears in her eyes as she stopped in front of me. "David, honey," she said, "can we please talk about everything? Please?" "No, Kate, there's not much to talk about. You cheated and I caught you. Now we're getting a divorce," I said. "But I don't want a divorce, Dave. Can't we just get it over with? I have nowhere to go. Please, I need to go home, Dave. I promise I'll feel better if you just let me come home and let me make it up to you." "No, that's not gonna happen, baby. I heard Greggy had to move into your little love nest. Why don't you move in with him and his daddy? I bet they'd be happy to take care of you." I walked around Kate and got into my truck. When I closed the door, she stood there crying. She didn't move until I was out of sight. Now here was another thing I didn't understand about women. Kate worked full-time and made almost $36,000 a year. Why didn't she have enough money to rent a place like I did? Why did she move into that damn apartment with Greg and his father? I don't know. What I found out from the police report is that Greg and his father beat her so badly that she died after 3 days in the hospital. She apparently pissed them off when she refused to let them make love to her alone. She thought she was Greg's lover, and they would get married after the divorce, according to a statement she gave to the police before she died. Now I really feel like crap. Kate ruined our marriage in search of the good life. I killed Kate with my stupid revenge. I looked up and said, "Bartender, give me another. Gotta get this shit over with." I was floating and the world was spinning, and then a goddamn mule kicked me in the head. There were dozens of people standing over me. I looked under the goddess's short skirt. She looked down at me. Her face reflected shock, and she fell to her knees beside me. "David, is that really you? Why the hell were you so drunk you fell off your bar stool?" "Patty?" "Yeah, Dave. I'd ask how you're doing, but I don't think you're in any condition to tell me. Let's get you up and see if we can sober you up a little." Patty and one of the bouncers helped me to her stall. She gave me coffee. I ran to the bathroom twice to get rid of the coffee and most of my insides. God, I'm glad I don't have to clean up after myself. After a couple hours, I was at least able to talk without too much trouble. Patty demanded an explanation of what I was doing there so drunk. I told her the whole story you just read and said, "So you see, Patty, I killed her. I don't know what I'm gonna do now. I hated her for what she did to me, but I didn't want her dead." Patty sat there in shock. She stared at me with her mouth open. Finally, she put her arm around me and hugged me tightly. "Dave, some of what you did was pretty mean, but you did not kill her. That asshole Greg killed her. You couldn't have known he would do it." Patty sat staring off into the distance for a while, then said, "You know, Dave, it's partly my fault. I regret now that I never told you about Catherine while we were in college. Even after you started dating, she had her eye on guys. If they had a lot of money or very little and were willing to spend it on her, she would use them. Often on evenings when she wasn't spending time with you at the Joe's, she would go out with some guy with deep pockets. Where do you think she got the money for those expensive clothes she wore? I never told you because you weren't exceptional back then, and I really didn't think you'd fall for her tricks and marry her. Heck, you worked at Joe's and knew what kind of tramps walked around there. I thought you were only after her for the lovemaking like the other guys. So you see, I'm kind of to blame, too." I was sitting there looking at Patty. "Even in college, right? Damn, I just don't understand women. I thought we were doing so well." "Dave, don't paint all women with the same brush. You know, a lot of us aren't like that. If you use that criteria, I guess I should run away from you because all men are like Gregory, right?" "Dave, I know that's not true. I've worked with you for 2 years. I know what kind of man you are. How many women have you brought home and put to bed when they were so drunk they could have been used if someone hadn't taken care of them? Dave, you just need to internalize that women are like men. There are good, decent players and there are not. There are women players just like there are men. Look for the good ones and do your best. We reason differently than men, it's true, and we're guided more by emotion, but it's not that hard to understand, is it?" Patty smiled and pulled my hand. "Come on, Dave. Let me take you home. By the way, where do you live? If you're really interested in learning something about women, when all this settles down, I'll give you some lessons on how to understand them. Okay? The end!"